What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Coin Brief Podcast, episode number 29. Today is January 11th, 2015. When you're watching this, it'll be the 12th. I'm your host, Evan Faggart, and I have Dustin O'Brien, the co-founder and editor of CoinBrief.net, with us here today, and we're going to talk about some news from the week. But before we get started, Dustin has a pretty big article coming up. So you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, there's an article that I've been promising everyone for a while, and I've been working on for weeks now, related to Paycoin and GAW and our relationship to GAW, because as people know, we have ads for GAW miners on our website. And I want people to know that just because we have ads for them doesn't necessarily mean we support everything they do. They're prepaid impressions, and we can't legally remove them unless they're proven to have done something wrong. But basically, tomorrow there will be an article coming out that's rather long and goes into a lot of detail about Paycoin and what I think the end game is for that, as well as GAW itself. And yeah, just read it. It's long. I'm sorry. I've been working on it for a long time. It's very long, but it'll be worth your time.
Yeah, this article is definitely going to be good. I helped Dustin with it a little bit, and I've read a little bit of what he has so far, and it's going to be a good article. So, Dustin, you said it should be up tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm on the last section basically right now. I just need to finish filling in links, resizing pictures, basically getting everything set up, and it'll be ready to go tomorrow.
Yeah, so it'll be if it's up by when I upload the podcast, I'll put a link to the description. And if it's not, I'll just put a link in the description after it's up, and you can refer back to this video and click on it. And next week, we're planning on having pretty big discussion about the article and maybe get into some things about the whole GAW controversy. So that'll be something to look forward to. Read the article tomorrow. It's going to be good. Trust me, I've seen a little bit of it. I helped out with it. It's going to be good. So now we can get to the news for the week. The first thing I want to talk about is Roger Ver, who is a pretty big person in the Bitcoin community. He's a very successful entrepreneur, and he speaks at a lot of Bitcoin conferences, and he was scheduled to speak at the North American Bitcoin Conference, I think it's called, and the big one in Miami that's coming up like a week from today. I think it starts
Yeah,
maybe, or something like that.
something like that.
And but he has been denied access to the United States. His visa application has been denied 3 separate times. Um, so it's looking like he's not going to be able to make it. And just to give a little backstory on why we have someone from the U.S. is applying for a visa to the U.S. is that he, around 10 years ago, 9 years ago, he left the U.S. after serving a 10-month prison sentence and 3 years probation for selling agricultural firecrackers online, which is apparently illegal. That happened 9 years ago, and he just kind of moved to Japan and lived there. And then at some point, he got rid of his U.S. citizenship. He handed in his passport, and he said, "I don't want any part of this country anymore." And then he became a citizen of Saint Kitts Nevis. I think that's
Thank
the
you.
right.
The Nevis.
Yeah, okay. And that's the last summer that little tiny island country or republic got some attention in the Bitcoin news because it accepted Bitcoin as payment for its citizenship. You can uh, you can either like purchase real estate worth a certain amount of money, or you can just like send a direct payment, I think, and they accept Bitcoin for that. And so he became a citizen there, and that's where he's been living. And he was denied U.S. visa, so he can't come to the Miami Bitcoin conference. I think it's a huge tragedy if he's not going to be able to make it, because this guy is he's a serious influential person in not only the Bitcoin community, but he's respected by people in the regular financial world as well. And I just think it's a real shame that he's not going to be able to make it.
Right. Well, I mean, the most ridiculous thing is the reason he's being denied a visa, because he's not getting denied a visa for the firecrackers that he sold, because he actually went to prison for that for like 10 months. But that's not the reason that he's being denied. He's being denied because here's the what they're saying. They're worried that he will become an illegal immigrant and overstay
Hmm.
his visa. I mean, yeah, they were saying, basically that he's not going to return back to his new home country, and they're worried he'll become an illegal immigrant in the U.S. So no, he can't come in.
Yeah, he wants to live in the U.S. illegally so bad that he denounced his citizenship to the United States, moved to a different country, and vowed to never take part in the American system again, just so he could come back and live illegally.
Right.
That um, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
Maybe maybe I kind of have my forgot to take my tinfoil hat off, but do you think it might have to do with his affiliation with Bitcoin?
Uh, yeah, probably. I mean, first of all, the U.S. doesn't take very kindly to people who renounce their citizenship to begin with.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
That they're okay with people that go. They're somewhat okay with people that go dual citizenship, depending on what country you become a dual citizen of. Um, but when you renounce your citizenship, that first of all pisses them off, and then the fact that he was using Bitcoin and using that to basically pay for his citizenship in another country. I mean, I'm sure that's really irked him. And they're making an example of him, basically.
And also, he is the CoinDesk article that me and Dustin are referencing um, describes Roger Ver as being famous for his libertarian slash anarchist political views. So
Right.
that definitely has something to do with it. Maybe not the libertarian so much as it is the anarchist.
Right.
And yeah, so there's definitely political motivation behind denying him access to the country. But the real damage, I honestly don't think he is going to care that much that he can't get into the U.S., because if he did, he wouldn't have handed in his passport in the first place. But uh, they said the official reason for why he was denied was the embassy said that they couldn't. Uh, he didn't have strong enough evidence that he had a connection with another country that he's planning to reside in permanently, which is where the fears that he was gonna live here illegally came from, even though he's lived in Japan for almost 10 years and he's a citizen of another country now. So
Right.
they pretty much made that up.
Right.
But
That's the excuse they usually use for people that are trying to immigrate from places like the Philippines or Mexico. They say that someone that has no family at home, basically, and say, well, you have no strong ties back at home. You have no family. You're coming from a poor area, so you'll be an illegal immigrant. That's not generally used for someone that willfully left, was a citizen, and is not in financial need, like is not trying to escape any sort of horrible conditions. Um, I don't know. It is ridiculous. The only thing I do wonder is if I don't know anything about his family. If he has family here, that's really sad that he can't come visit his family.
yeah,
Um,
the article actually says that his entire family lives in the U.S., and he actually um, has an uncle who has stage 4 cancer and who's probably going to die soon. And
yeah,
he
so, yeah,
can't, they are not even letting him in to see his family
right.
because of his political beliefs, basically. But a question I want to ask you, because I actually don't know where you stand on this, because we haven't talked about this yet. It's not really related to Bitcoin, but um, this whole thing where the United States denies people entry to their country, even if they used to live there, even if they have lots of family there. Do you think that's a legitimate function of government? Like, do you think
No, not at all.
so?
I mean,
So do you think that um, they have a justification in enforcing immigration restrictions at all? Do you think open borders would be better?
for the most part, yeah. Uh, the only, I mean, I think it would just, yeah, pretty much open borders. Anyone should be able to come to the U.S. Now, the only thing I could say is, like, say, people with a violent criminal past. Okay, maybe stop it there. If someone is coming in and is like a member of a cartel and wants to come into the U.S., yeah, maybe we should keep them from coming in because, chances are the reason they're coming is not necessarily to come get a job or come start a business in the U.S. is come to do something that I don't know. But for the most part, I mean, I think anyone should be able to come to the U.S. We have plenty of room. we have uh, we have a history that shows that immigration does nothing but improve our country. Like we're built on immigrants. If my family did not immigrate here from Ireland during the potato famine, I wouldn't be here, and most likely my whole family would have died. But instead, they came here and they were farmers and they were very successful and they did very well for themselves and they helped feed the country.
Yeah, I think basically if you're white and you're American, you can thank immigration, open immigration for your existence.
Yeah,
Like I'm a mixture of like German, Irish, Dutch. I'm a mutt basically.
yeah, me
Um,
too.
but but yeah, I really don't see any evidence for why closed borders or restricted border policy is good in any sense of the word. If I mean, open borders would just make really everything a lot better, especially economically. It would drastically increase our material wealth because we could produce better things for cheaper. I mean, who doesn't like that?
Yeah,
So I that was just something I thought of because this whole Roger Ver thing, and it comes from an illegitimate function of government, and they're using their powers given to them from by their claim on this illegitimate function to just deny people access based on their political beliefs.
right,
And there are lots of people who expatriate from the U.S. and they're never allowed back in,
right,
even if it's a huge emergency, like their entire family could die, and they would not be let back in. Uh, Not because they're a national security threat or anything, but because the government's pissed off at them for leaving like that.
yeah,
They just don't like them for their politics, which is, in my opinion, it's an egregious violation of First Amendment, in the very least, and it's just not very humane.
right.
So,
Yeah, it's not the only time. I mean, it's generally if they are denying immigration for any reason, there is a political motivation behind it. The reason that poor countries are not allowed is because, well, there is a political party that we have that who has a base that mostly does not want immigrants from poor countries coming in. The reason people from China had trouble coming here is because of politics between the U.S. and China. I personally know two Chinese girls, one of which is who has married my cousin. And she is now working on getting her green card, but is having to go through a lot for it and basically prove their marriage is legitimate, even though like we have Facebook today. All it takes is looking at their Facebook for a second, and you're like, okay, yeah, okay, this is a legitimate marriage. They're completely in love. And then another one. that a girl that I knew who came over here for an internship after she to finish up her master's degree, and she was told that she had to wait at least 2 years before she could even apply for a visa to come back because they have weird laws like that. And even then, her chances are not very good. And I said she just got a master's degree. Also, the other girl, the one that's married to my cousin, also has a master's degree, and yet it's still difficult for her to come here. I don't understand. Well, we don't want educated people too. Like,
Yeah,
that seems like a no-brainer.
it's just so the whole thing is so ridiculous if you ask me. I think border restriction is just a remnant of mercantilism because why do people say they want to restrict the borders was to protect jobs. We don't want those
Mm-hmm.
dirty immigrants stealing our jobs because they do it better and cheaper, so that somehow doesn't make everyone better off. But that ultimately ends up with everyone being poor because we end up making goods that are more expensive to make and they're not as good, and we have to pay more for them. And
Mm-hmm.
then people who aren't allowed to come in, they have to live in the terrible place that they're trying to escape. They're pretty much forced to stay there.
Yeah, and we have
And
fruit rotting on trees because the people the illegal immigrants that were picking it before, this happened recently in Georgia, where they really cracked down on illegal immigration, and it was the peaches, I believe, were just rotting on the trees because no one was willing to do the job because it had to pay so little because it wasn't cost effective otherwise. Before, the people that did it were actually illegal immigrants, and they were basically barred from doing it. And so rather than the fruit being picked, it all just rotted and fell to the ground. The farmers lost millions.
yeah, I can't even imagine what reason anyone would have for wanting to restrict immigration because they'll be like, oh, well, it'll make everyone poor because they'll steal our jobs and they'll send all the money back home. Well, that didn't happen in the 19th century when we did
Right.
have essentially open borders
Right.
and people were coming in by the droves, and all you had to do was get a simple medical examination to make sure you didn't have smallpox, and then they would
Yeah.
just set you free. They would be like, go work and make
Yeah.
money, make something of yourself. And the 19th century was a period of the rapid economic expansion, and
Yeah.
it was because of immigration. It was because they allowed comparative advantage to take place, which just increased the quality and lowered the price of everything. And it was that, and that period is really what made America great. It laid the foundation for America to become a superpower because we
Right.
just had all this economic wealth, and
The
then when
melting
it was
pot.
yeah, and then when it was time for World War I and II, the government just stole it all and built a huge military, and now we're the last 20th century empire. So,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's all thanks to really free immigration.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, getting back to Bitcoin,
Sorry
uh,
for going off on a tangent there.
um, another we mentioned Gall miners at the beginning of this show, but they are they're really newbies compared to this next company, Butterfly Labs. They got a lot of flack a few months ago for well, they've been ever since they existed. They've been criticized, but they've been accused of being a scam because they have advertised this Bitcoin miner, and they opened a pre-order for it, but they never actually launched or scheduled a launch date for it. So a lot of people never got their miners, and then it just got so bad that the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, which is a regulatory agency in the United States, actually shut them down and froze their assets and sued them for some crime. I'm not sure what, but um, on January 8th, the news came out that um, the FTC had some kind of request denied for an injunction, an asset freeze, and an appointment of a receiver. I don't know what any of that means except for the asset freeze because I'm not a law person. But there was a request for that. A U.S. District Court shot it down, and that basically allowed Butterfly Labs to resume operations. And they said they're going to continue shipping out Monarch miners, and for anyone who pre-ordered and never received their Monarch machine, they have set up an application process where you can request a refund. So Butterfly Labs is back. They're doing business again. What do you think about that, Dustin?
Well, hopefully their owner has learned a lesson because part of their problem wasn't just that they didn't ship things; it was also that the guy that owned the company was just rude and mean to his customers, basically, and everyone in the community. He was, I don't even know what to say about him. He was not popular, and not just because they didn't deliver on time. Way before it was even time for them to deliver, people hated him. And so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm glad they're coming back. I'm glad that the people that have had these pre-orders are, have the potential or possibility now that they might get a refund or a really outdated machine, I guess. Like, I don't know if anyone wants the machine. They'll probably all opt for refunds if possible. But I actually have a Butterfly Labs monitor. I can see it from here. I bought a little single and it was something like 5 months late. By the time it got here, it was technically profitable because it was decently efficient compared to the first monitor I bought. But it was not going to make its value back. I was never going to get back what I paid for it. But I was still going to try. But within a week, it died.
It died
It just stopped working within a week. So
within a week after you got it.
yeah, I've got it all. Like I said, I can see from here. I can see the parts. I just took it apart, to see how it was built, and I don't know what's wrong with the thing. I just said screw it.
Well, do you think Butterfly Labs is actually a scam, or are they just terrible at managing their business?
I think it was just bad management. I think it was just basically they had an idea. They thought it would be a lot easier than it was. They had had success in the past making mining machines, not ASICs. I think it was FPGAs that they were made, or wait, what is it? Is it FGPA? I can't remember what they're called. Anyway, which are basically similar to using GPUs, but in a way that makes them more efficient and arranges a bunch of them in a row. And they did decently well with that. They made those, but those are easy to make comparatively. You don't have to build new hardware really. It's more about taking existing hardware and kind of putting it together a little differently, using software that doesn't take a whole lot of work to change to do what you wanted to do. ASICs were a completely new idea. I mean, ASICs have existed for other things, but they were trying to do it before anyone else. It was like Butterfly Labs and Avalon, I think. That was it. And they got in over their head. They just didn't know what they were doing. They tried to make it pretty, because their machines were pretty. They tried to
Right.
make it pretty and tried to make a functional ASIC. And in the process of trying to make it pretty, they failed on the functional ASIC. Well, Avalon, which is the one that I got my first ASIC from, went the opposite direction. They're like, we don't care what it looks like, we're going to produce it and send it out the door. And so I've got a big black box with screws sticking out of it everywhere that still runs to this day.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that Butterfly Labs was ever a scam either. Like, I don't know, the whole Bitcoin community pretty much crucified them. I mean, I guess they deserved a lot of it because they did fail to fulfill a lot of orders, and it kind of screwed people out of their money because the people who did get their miners, by the time it took so long for the miners to get shipped that by the time the customer actually bought it, the Bitcoin mining difficulty had increased to a point where you couldn't get a return on your investment that you made in buying this machine. So you basically just took a complete loss. But at the same time, they were saying that, oh, Butterfly Labs is a fraud, it's a scam. They were just wanting to run away with your money. But I went and looked at the Butterfly Labs website when they first got shut down in September, and the pre-order, that's all it was a pre-order. It didn't have a launch date. They weren't advertising a launch date. They didn't say we're gonna get it to you by this time. They didn't even give you a basic time frame like it'll within a week or a month we'll have them shipped out. It just said you can pre-order them now, and basically you'll get them when you get them. That they're To me they're pretty straightforward about that. So if there's anybody who pre-ordered a machine and never got it, I would have to say that that's your fault for pre-ordering something that didn't have a tentative launch date, you know?
Well, I think part of the problem, something that you might be missing a little bit there, and this was not just Butterfly Labs, but a lot of the early ASIC mining companies did this, was that they didn't necessarily ship things out when they were ready. Um, like they would have things, or at least this is what it seemed like because people were watching, mining power and pools and stuff had noticed that, these various pools would ramp up in hashing power that no one knows where it's coming from and kind of correlate it with, well, this ASIC company should be getting close to having their stuff produced. Now there's this pool running, and it'd be running for weeks or months, basically, at high rates. And then people would receive machines that were obviously used. So they were mining with people's machines, telling them there were delays, and then sending them to them. Or at least that's what it seems like, and that makes sense for mine, considering it died within a week. Like it had already been ran pretty hard, maybe. Because if you run an ASIC hard, it'll burn out. But that was a lot of where the scam stuff came from, and like I said, it wasn't just them. There were a bunch of them. A bunch of the ASIC companies got accused of that.
Well, and if I remember it correctly, Butterfly Labs got shut down for not shipping their orders out.
Yeah.
Like it, um, so I don't think the case has anything to do with using equipment that was paid for. They could have done that, and that would be terrible if they did that. But um, I mean, is there any like hard evidence of that, or is that just what people have a theory people have come up with?
I don't remember. It's been a while. This was all stuff I read up on a long time ago. I mean, the fact that Butterfly Labs is back now blows my mind. And I get a lot of the old mining companies confused. I know for some of them, some of the mining companies there was proof of it, and some there weren't. But it's more than likely they were, because almost every one of them did it. And that was where people were saying that pre-orders were a scam. It wasn't just the Butterfly Lab orders were a scam, like pre-orders were a scam, that all pre-orders basically at that period in Bitcoin's mining history were a scam in general. Like most of them were. If you were pre-ordering, you were basically paying for someone else to build a machine, mine with it when it's at its most profitable, obviously, because as time goes on, it becomes less, and then send you a used machine. And that's how it usually went. The
Yeah,
only
well,
one I think that didn't do that was Avalon, or they didn't do it very much. They mostly just ran them for a little bit to make sure everything was functional and sent them on, which is why they were the first ones out the door. I mean, Avalon was
right.
shipping in May of 2013 when Butterfly Labs didn't get stuff out until early 2014.
Right. Well, I didn't know about that because I don't follow the mining stuff very closely. But I remember when Butterfly Labs back in September of 2014, when Butterfly Labs got shut down, I didn't see people talking about paying for machines, mining rigs, and then them using it and then receiving a used product. All I saw were people saying, I paid so much money, I bought like so many machines, and they just never sent them.
Right.
And people were saying that that was the scam, that they were advertising this product and people were
Right.
buying it and ordering it, but then it never shipped out. And they're just saying that Butterfly Labs is just running off with the money.
Right.
And but I looked up the article. This article is from Crypto Coins news. I can put it in the description when I upload it. It's from September when they first got shut down by the FTC,
Yeah.
and it says that FTC found that Butterfly Labs had violated Section 5A of the FTC Act, which is you're not allowed to engage in unfair or deceptive business practices in or affecting commerce. And to me, that sounds absurdly broad because anything can be considered unfair.
Yes. That's
So,
probably why they're not being very successful with the charges so far.
yes, I mean that can cover anything from uh, using the machines before they ship them out to just simply putting up a pre-order without a tentative launch date.
Yeah.
I, like like I said, I didn't know about all that stuff that you mentioned that was going on in 2013 because that was before I was even involved in Bitcoin. So that very well could be the case that they're prosecuting them on the basis of being dishonest about how they're using the customer's hardware.
Right.
But just from what I remember, the main part of Butterfly Labs specifically, I don't know anything about Avalon or any of the other mining companies, but the big complaint about Butterfly Labs is that people were pre-ordering machines and never getting them.
Right.
And but based on the FTC code that they violated, they could have done anything. They could have like sneezed the wrong way one day, and they could have broken the law. So
Right.
who knows? Um, but
Yeah.
I don't. I'm sure there's somebody who's gonna watch this who knows way more about it than both of us. So if anybody has any information to contribute, just please feel free to comment because um, I've been wrong before. So I don't care about being. I mean, I like being right, but I'd rather know the truth than try to be right about something uh,
Right.
and then end up saying wrong information. So if anybody knows what is going on more than I do, please comment.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. If I remember correctly, the reason people thought that they were mining and other ones were, I mean, beyond the fact that people would receive machines that looked worn, basically, and looked like they'd been running a lot and like were dusty inside and stuff like that. Beyond that, like, and not lasting long, basically, was that because it took them so long to get to where they thought or where they needed to get to send the stuff out. It took them so long to produce the machines, basically, and they spent a whole lot more money developing them than they thought they would, that they ended up basically needing to do that in order to produce more machines. Like in order to produce the other machines, they basically went negative at some point and would need to mine in order to make up the difference so that they could build the rest of the machines. Or at least that was the theory that was going around back then. Like it's hard to prove what's going on inside of the company when they're not talking and telling what's happening.
yeah, that would be pretty terrible if that's what they were doing. If they let it get so bad that they actually had to do that just to stay afloat, that would have been.
Yeah. I mean,
But
there's a reason that a lot of the mining companies went out of business. They weren't the only ones. I mean, they were one of the only ones that actually, had criminal charges filed against them. But there were a very, very, very large number of mining companies that went out of business because they just weren't able to produce.
yeah, but yeah. So if anybody knows anything more about it, feel free to comment because, like I said, I don't know much about mining. So and Dustin has a fuzzy memory apparently. But but
I stopped
anyways,
mining a while ago.
but anyways, I want to talk about something else. Well, actually, I want to let Dustin talk about something else because it has to do with Reddcoin, and I'm not really big on altcoins, so I'm not really qualified to have an opinion or an informed opinion on this. But there's apparently some drama going on with Reddcoin, um, where this guy who ran the Red API, he was unsatisfied with something the development team was doing, so he had some kind of like blackmail. What's going on with this, Dustin? What can you tell us about it?
I mean, I'm still not completely 100% on all the details exactly anyway, and this is the second podcast in a row we've mentioned Redcoin, and that is not on purpose. But this actually impacts CoinBrief directly because we use Red API for our wallet system that handles like our comment, Redcoin, all that. So to everyone that has an account on CoinBrief and you have Red coins in your wallet, log into CoinBrief, please, and send all of your red coins to a wallet outside of that. Send it to Cryptsy, send it to a desktop wallet, send it wherever you want. Just get it off of CoinBrief because it's with Red API right now, and they're shutting down in a month, and all those red coins will just go away if you don't. And they do have value. Um, and we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do to replace them because they handled all of our transaction stuff. So basically, what I understand happened here is the guy that ran Red API was not very happy about something that Laudney was doing. He's not really made it completely clear what it was. Um, it it seems that from what I've read in other sources, that Laudney, who is the lead developer for Redcoin, is very professional and strict and on top of things and wants things done quickly and efficiently and effectively and cleanly, which doesn't sound like a bad thing to me, but it seems some other developers don't necessarily like that. Uh, and also the way Redcoin is being developed, most likely Red API would not be needed forever. Redcoin would integrate its own system that would handle everything that Red API does now. And Red API makes money every time someone withdraws money from the Red API, so that would cut off, source of income there. But Shane, that's his name, Shane, the owner of, or the creator of Red API, I guess, has decided that he was moving on. But rather than just say, hey, I'm done with Red API and I'm moving on, he decided to send a message to the other developers, and say, I'll give you 12 hours to tell the Redcoin community about Redcoin Ltd, or I'll expose it. Public record all over about the company. You can't hide it, nor can you hide your identity. You know Laudney ruined Redcoin. Release the details yourself in 12 hours, or I will. And Redcoin Ltd is a company that was formed a while back, for the Redcoin developers, for when the money from the IPO runs out, for them to have like basically a business to sell services out of, or whatever they're going to do with it to bring in funds to continue developing Redcoin. And I don't think it was a secret because I'd heard about it before. And as far as I know, the community supported it. Like, they wanted it to continue going. They wanted Redcoin to continue to be developed because they've thought that, everything they're doing is a great idea and they like the direction it's going. And I'm really confused by all of this, honestly. I mean, I know other developers have left too before, but none of the other ones really seem to have left for these kinds of issues, more because they were just moving on to another project or, whatever. So yeah, it's a confusing situation. The main reason I even wanted to really bring this up is to tell our users to withdraw your red coins from CoinBrief. We're going to withdraw ours, but we can't touch yours. Yours are there, and if you don't withdraw them, they're going to go away. So.
Yeah, so from what you've told us, to me it kind of seems like this guy is just mad that he's gonna lose money once they get finished doing whatever they're doing with Redcoin.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, they're working on Social X now, which is not going to replace him, but I know down the road the plan is to have an all-inclusive, system basically that handles everything from tipping to, already handles transactions. It already basically has tipping integration. It basically just works so that you can integrate a payment system with it with Reddcoin in a decentralized way without needing to go through a third party, and Red API was the third party that would eventually be replaced there. Um, so that could be part of it. It could be something deeper than that. There's not a whole lot of information other than him threatening to tell everyone about a company that everyone knew existed.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out. If anything else comes of it, I wouldn't be surprised if nothing ever came of it. But
I'm sure not.
that that was an interesting little piece of crypto drama that I saw,
Yeah.
and I don't know, it gave you a chance to tell everybody to get their red coin off of CoinBrief, which if
Right.
you haven't, you should. I have like
Yeah.
24 cents worth on there, so
Yeah. I got
um,
a I got an email about this morning. I was going to mention it to you that we should tell people before you mention why it was shutting down. I just got an email saying Red API was shutting
no.
down. So
Well, it worked out then. But
yeah.
yeah, that was a weird little thing to talk about. But moving on, there's this new game. It seems really cool called Sarutobi. Uh, it means something like swinging monkey in some other language. I don't know. But basically, it's a game. It's a retro-styled game, and you're a monkey, and you swing from tree to tree, and you collect power-ups and Bitcoin tokens. And I'm not really sure what the point of this game is. I think you get points or and tokens and stuff, and you can buy power-ups. But what's cool about it is that the game rewards people by giving them small Bitcoin tips. After you play for a certain amount of time, you can the game gives you a Bitcoin tip, and the way it does it is that the game has a shared Bitcoin wallet, which they call a pot, and revenue that's generated by the game from like in-app purchases and banner ads that they run on the game, they convert that revenue to Bitcoin, and then they distribute that Bitcoin to the players. After, like I said, after they play for a certain amount of time, they get a small Bitcoin tip, and I just think it's really cool. It's the second game of its kind, really. Well, really, in one light, it's the first of its kind. But Bitcoin Billionaire was centered on Bitcoin, and it was insanely popular, and it was really fun too. I actually maxed out the total level of income you can make on it. I got addicted to it. But this one actually pays people in Bitcoin to play. And I think it's a pretty cool way to spread awareness about it because there's actually a financial incentive involved in downloading the game and learning about Bitcoin.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I agree. It's really it is an interesting idea. I've been saying for a while now that Bitcoin or digital currency in general are perfect for integration in a game because most games already have an in-game currency that then they have to keep up track of, and they have to make sure people aren't manipulating or cheating and like duping and stuff like that. Especially like if you go to the level of say like an MMO or some other online game that's has multiple players. Um, so a digital currency that like a cryptocurrency that can't be faked is perfect. That's great. Or for this case where it's just being used to reward users for playing. That's a really interesting idea. I read on Reddit one guy tested it out to see how much he could make in an hour. So he played this game for an hour and he made the equivalent of 24 cents basically in Bitcoin, which is nothing amazing, but for playing a game, that's not bad. And then there's also like I was telling you before, there is BitQuest, which is on a Minecraft server that came out back in December at some point. And BitQuest, you can earn Bitcoin in it by collecting emeralds, basically, which were something that's already in Minecraft, but they changed how emeralds are received and how to get them, and they're redeemable for Bitcoin. They have a certain value of Bitcoin for each emerald. And so that's the in-game currency for that server on Minecraft. You use emeralds to trade with other players or to buy special things from the server, or you can cash it out and get Bitcoin for it.
Yeah, I think stuff like that with video games is so cool. I love it when the game makers find out a way to put something in the game that has real world value, because one, it makes the game a lot more fun because there's actually you can get some kind of real world satisfaction out of it beyond just having fun in the game. Um, but also an extension of that is that people genuinely care about what they do in the game, and so it creates all this opportunity for um, like really in-depth in-game economies to develop that have, a lot of complexity to it and a lot of moving parts. And I think Bitcoin is perfect to help move more games in that direction. And I think that would just improve gaming as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
because it makes it so much more immersive. You get into it so much more because you actually care about it. And I think that's awesome. I look at games like Eve Online, and the World of Warcraft has a really in-depth market system, and then Second Life, some like, I don't know, I've never played it, or some like virtual reality game where you can make a character or whatever, but it has the Linden dollar, which has an actual exchange rate with the US dollar.
Yeah.
And it I think stuff like that is amazing. I think a lot of it is gonna make up the bulk of gaming in the future.
Yeah. Uh, you mentioned the Linden dollar, and we talked about this before. They also have Bitcoin, where they have Linden dollar to Euro or USD, whatever, and then they also have Linden dollar to Bitcoin. And because they don't actually go from Bitcoin or a digital currency that can be spent outside of a game to a fiat currency, they can kind of get around some of the rules needed for exchanges. They because in-game currencies aren't subject to money transmission laws, so they only accept fiat for those, and then for the Linden dollars, and then you can use the Linden dollars to buy Bitcoin, and that's perfectly fine too. And they've been around for a while. They're an exchange that I think has been around since before Bitcoin was even created. Yeah, 2007 is when they launched. We actually have a link to them on Coinbrief. But yeah, the Linden dollar is a cool idea. And Second Life actually has probably or it did have one of the most advanced gaming economies ever created, because people could design whatever they wanted in there. So people even had like clothing shops. Like there were people making like $100,000 a year designing clothing in game for characters, or designing furniture and houses and stuff like that for people and selling them to them. Like having like legitimate stores where people would walk in and like come talk to them and buy things from them for cash.
That that's kind of ridiculous to me, but I guess whatever
Yeah,
whatever you like. I don't know, but I but at the same time, that's amazing that
yeah,
uh, you can you can just make an in-game economy so in-depth and make the game so much more immersive, and all you have to do is attach some real-world value to it. And it after you do that, I think it would be pretty amazing to see how easily and how simply an in-game economy will arise like that. And I've read a little bit about in-game economies, and it's actually another cool thing about them is that really in-depth systems like Second Life and EVE Online, they serve as a pretty reliable way to just observe on a much smaller scale how entire economies work, and it's just cool to look at all the moving parts of what goes on in markets, and
yeah,
that's just another cool aspect of bringing real world value into video games. But that being said, um, I don't know if Bitcoin itself can serve as the video game currency, because it does have real world value, but I think the problem might be that in the future, as it becomes more of a real world currency, it might become too valuable, maybe, and people just won't be willing to, you know, part with it in a video game because they can buy food with it or pay a bill with it or something. So, I mean, what do you think about that? Like, do you think
That
Bitcoin is going to be integrated in video games, or do you think that's going to be the job of another kind of less valuable cryptocurrency?
no, I don't know if Bitcoin will be the one, but I don't think the value of Bitcoin will have anything to do with it because, I mean, many games now already where you can spend real money in the game. Like I said, I mentioned Minecraft with the BitQuest like server, but almost all Minecraft servers. I don't know if you know much about Minecraft. I have a 6-year-old son, so I know a lot about Minecraft because he has shown me a lot about it. But those servers all run on basically cash. Like there are in-game purchases for every server that is set up by the server and the developers of that specific server. Um, and people spend hundreds of dollars on those. So the value of Bitcoin wouldn't matter. Like if people are already spending hundreds of dollars on games, or look at the freemium games, people spend hundreds of dollars on those. Um, Bitcoin would be a fine currency to use for that. Now, I think that it may be if, say, side chains is developed correctly, um, to allow secondary currencies to be attached kind of to Bitcoin's blockchain and for assets to move easily between the two, it might be more efficient to have another currency to use for games simply for transaction costs and stuff like that. With Bitcoin being, more of a primary currency you would go back to. I mean, that would even allow the creation of, individual currencies for each game that would still be transferable between games. Each game could run its own blockchain.
Well, I guess the way I should have worded that is not so much the in-game purchasing, because yeah, it's undeniable that people will spend a lot of money to win a video game. But I'm talking about like something like the gold in World of Warcraft, where it's actually part of the game. It's part of the gameplay itself. It's not something that you can use to purchase things to improve your gaming experience, but it's part of the actual game.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not something external that you can bring in and do like an in-game purchase, but it's the currency of the game. Like it's part of the story.
Right.
Like would game developers be willing to integrate something as valuable as Bitcoin um, as like part of the story? And it's just does that make is what I'm
Yeah,
asking make sense?
I get what you're saying. I don't think they would call it Bitcoin. It could be something that's tied directly to Bitcoin. That's like, where one of these equals a Satoshi or something, whatever. I mean, they could even directly tie it using Bitcoin's blockchain and basically build, their currency on top of the blockchain, like some other currencies have, or like I said, with the side chain, build their own blockchain where it's just linked to Bitcoin. But no, I think they'll still use a different currency in the game that will just be exchangeable for Bitcoin. Um, that would make more sense. It'd be simpler to do that and just use the security of blockchain technology and Bitcoin's value and the ability to transfer easily between the two, more so than to have Bitcoin directly integrated into every game. Or if it is directly integrated into the game, it would be masked in a way. Like say with that that Minecraft server I was talking about, the oh god the BitQuest one. That one would be a pretty good example of how they've used the emeralds, and each emerald has a specific value of Bitcoin. So the emeralds, you can say the emeralds are Bitcoins. They're just not called Bitcoins. You can trade them directly for, you can trade them at a set rate for a Bitcoin. They're supposed to be Bitcoins. They just changed the name.
Yeah, that's how I imagine it being. Like you wouldn't really have Bitcoin in your game. you just have tokens like you do now, and but it incentivizes you to play the game because you can cash them out for some amount of Bitcoin. And because yeah, I think making Bitcoin like a hardwired part of the game where you just where you would normally have a token, now you have Bitcoin. I think the value would affect that because then there would be an opportunity cost involved. The
Hmm.
developers they have this stock of Bitcoin, and they so well we can make it kind of a meaningless part of the game where it's just an in-game token, or we can use it in something else because it's actual money. That's kind of what I was getting at. I don't think I really worded it very well, but so yeah, I think the integrating cryptocurrency with gaming, it'll just serve more as an incentive to make people play the game more, and it'll make game economies more immersive. But I don't think it would replace like tokens and things like that because I think the value of Bitcoin really would have an effect on that.
Yeah.
But I mean, unless you have anything else to say about that, I'm gonna get on a different topic.
Uh, Only one because I just remembered it towards the end. There actually was another game before that had integration with cryptocurrency, or actually, it was a cryptocurrency that was having a game built around it. It was Hunter Coin or Hunt Coin,
I've
and there
never heard
was
of
a
that
game. Yeah, that was like over a year ago. And basically, like it was just like a little game where you went in and like fought things and stuff like that. But that I guess like while you were running the game, it was also doing the mining kind of,
one.
and that was how the coins were produced, and you could then kill things in the game to get the coins, but then they were usable outside of it.
That's cool. That actually reminds me of a conspiracy theory with Bitcoin billionaire is that some people were like totally convinced that the developer was going to release an update to the game and it was going to install some kind of like malware onto your phone where it would use your phone's CPU to mine Bitcoin
Right.
after once you installed the game.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, well,
that,
this currency slash game was built to be that. When you're playing it, it's mining. Like that was the point.
yeah, that sounds pretty cool though, because that doesn't sound like it could be used for any kind of nefarious purposes.
Right.
You're just mining the coin so you can actually have something to use in the game. That's a pretty cool system, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was true proof of work. Like it was like not only is your computer working, but you have to be playing the game. So you're working too. You had to work to make the coin.
Right. Well, this video game, the guy who makes this video game, Sarutobi, he says he's planning on making another Bitcoin game where you're a Bitcoin miner, but you're not like a server warehouse manager or something. You're a literal miner, and you like dig into the ground and dig up Bitcoins. That's that's real, really real proof of work because you're literally digging into the ground.
Yeah,
And
and he's
that's
go
do what?
ahead. I'd say you should integrate Oculus Rift with it and some sort of motion sensors on your hands, so you actually have to mine like you know.
That would be a pretty interesting game. I would play that one. But
Well,
um, the next topic is that it's about Purse.io. In case anybody doesn't know what Purse.io is, it is it's a service. It provides like an indirect way to use Bitcoin to shop on Amazon. And what you do is you go on Amazon and you make a wish list, and then you take the link to your wish list and you paste it into Purse.io, and it actually has an option where you can get discounts, and you can select the discount you want. And depending on how high the discount is, it depends on how long it takes for somebody to respond to your request. But then somebody can take your submission and use a credit card to buy that thing from Amazon, and then you pay that person, or you send your Bitcoin to Purse, and then Purse pays the person who bought the things for you in Bitcoin. Um, there's been some, like, I guess you could say, controversy surrounding it because people are saying that this creates a way to launder money to launder stolen credit cards, and there's actually been a few cases of that, or people on Purse doing some kind of illegal activity. And recently, someone who bought something on Purse had their house searched because of something, like I said, it's because of something they purchased on the marketplace. Now, in response to this, Purse has implemented, or they're preparing to, I don't know if it's available yet, but they're offering a $10,000 protection guarantee to, it's basically just like an insurance plan. It's really what it is. And I think it's a pretty interesting move by Purse, considering kind of the shady reputation they have in the community. But what do you think about it?
I think it's pretty much what they needed to do because, I mean, really, like you said, the way they have their system set up, and I didn't know a lot about them before, but now I do. The way they have their system set up, I mean, it really does encourage people to use stolen credit cards. I mean, why else are you going, if somebody is saying, hey, I want this stuff from Amazon, but I want to pay 80% for it, why is someone going to use their credit card to do that when there are other ways of using your credit card to get Bitcoin where you don't lose that much? Um, and so, yeah, I mean, you can almost assume that if someone is buying something for you on there, either one, they haven't done a very good job of looking at the internet to find out that there are better ways of getting Bitcoin with a credit card, or two, they are using a stolen one. Like that's just it. In my opinion, it's great that Purse is doing this because that's needed, and secondly, they need to find a way to filter out or find a way to discourage stolen credit cards being used on there. I don't know if maybe like I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they would do this since they're letting people choose their own discount rates. I mean, if it was like a 10% discount, I could understand that because that's something that, depending on where you live, it might be hard to use a credit card to get Bitcoin at a rate much better than that.
Yeah, they actually have like a suggested discount, and I think it's 8%. They say if you want your stuff to get shipped like with in the same time limit, in the same time span that it would be if you had just paid with a credit card, then the best discount option to choose would be 8% because that's the the best possible way, or the most incentivized way to get people to use it. Because if it's too high, then people aren't gonna give it to you for free. And I don't know
Yeah.
what they would do if it was too low. I don't know why that wouldn't be a better option. But yeah, I don't know how they would. Um, I don't know how they would find out if people were using stolen credit cards or not. I'm sure there is a way, but I just don't know. So I, th- I guess maybe Purse just perhaps they didn't anticipate that people would be using stolen credit cards to launder money through their service, and so they're trying to um, assert their legitimacy by giving this consumer protection plan. And so I think it's a good strategic move on their part, but I don't know if it'll improve their reputation any. And plus, I've never used Purse, but I have used Bitcoin to buy a digital gift card, and then buy something on Amazon. That was really easy.
Yeah.
Um, at first, at first I was kind of skeptical because Purse seemed really easy, but using that method, using the gift method, it's really fast. So I don't know how they could compete with that. So
Yeah, I like Gift too. They are pretty simple. And then there's Pock.io, which supposedly is selling Amazon gift cards and stuff like that now. I'm not recommending them because I have not used them. I've, received an email from their founder and talked to him for a little bit because he was wanting to discuss it, and but I haven't had a chance to try out their service yet. But they're supposed to be working on a way to get discount Amazon gift cards so they can sell them at under the normal cost. Don't know how they're pulling that off. But yeah, so there's that too.
yeah, I've never heard of POC, but if they if they can legitimately get below price discount cards, that would be pretty
Yeah,
crazy. That would that would be pretty successful if they don't end up getting arrested for it.
yeah.
But
There are ways to do it. I mean, look at like cdkeys.com. I mean, they sell all sorts of stuff underpriced because they get really good deals from
yeah,
different companies. Like, I'm not really sure how they get their deals. I just know they're legitimate because they've been around forever and they have no issues and they always deliver. So,
yeah.
fortunately, they don't accept Bitcoin.
Well, let's move on to the last topic of the episode because we're coming up on an hour now. Uh, Another Silk Road topic. We talk about Silk Road a lot on
Yeah.
this show, but that's because Silk Road is really interesting and it refuses to die.
hmm
So, Dustin, you actually found this story, so do you want to talk about it instead of me talking about it?
Yeah, I'll get it started. So it's not just the Silk Road; it's the Silk Road Reloaded. You know, they had to add that Reloaded because Silk Road 2 was already taken. Um, but it's came back and it's using I2P instead of Tor, which supposedly is safer than Tor. Um, and I did not really know what I2P was. I'd heard that mentioned before, but I had no idea what it was. And so I looked up a little bit, and I can kind of see how it would be safer than Tor, because Tor is not completely decentralized. You know, it has a bit of centralization to it in way. Um, and while I2P is, it seems, a completely decentralized anonymous network. And the Silk Road Reloaded is actually not just accepting Bitcoin, but it's accepting Bitcoin, Anoncoin, Darkcoin, Dogecoin, I believe Litecoin, and it said that there were three other ones, but they were not listed. So yeah, it's going that route, accepting a bunch of coins and using a system supposedly, more secure than Tor. Please, in the comments, let us know if you know if I2P is really more secure than Tor, or what the differences are there. Because reading up on it, I wasn't completely sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've even heard of I2P, and even if I did, and even if I read about it, it would just be way over my head because I don't know anything about that kind of stuff. But what really fascinates me is that Silk Road just won't die. Like it's been taken down twice now, and now we have a third one, Silk Road Reloaded. And on top of that, there's like a bajillion other darknet marketplaces where you can go. The like the main one now, I think. Actually, I don't even know what the biggest one is now, but basically when Silk Road 2 was taken down, um, all the traffic from that and I think another kind of busy exchange that was taken down, they just went to another exchange that they, or not exchange, but another marketplace that they couldn't shut down. And it just proves the resiliency that decentralization creates. Like you can't, even if you don't like something, you can't get rid of it because there's gonna be people who do like whatever it is that's trying to be banned, and with decentralization, they're they're just gonna keep it going no matter what, and that's what really fascinates me about how Silk Road just keeps freaking popping up everywhere.
Yeah, 20 years from now, we're still gonna have the Silk Road and Pirate Bay.
Yeah, there's like
There's like 20 or 30 Pirate Bays now since they released the code
yeah
to just make your own.
yeah since the original one got taken down, that I found old Pirate Bay, which is just like a mirror of
Mhm.
everything
Yeah,
on Pirate Bay before it got taken down. But then I also found Pirate Bay. It's like an exact clone of the original one, but it's piratebay.cr, and I guess it's an updated one where people can actually there you can actually get new torrents, and
right.
that it's like when they took down Napster, they're like, well, that's the end of file sharing. They they thought
Yeah,
they thought they fixed it, but no, they.
they just made it go decentralized.
But speaking of the different altcoins they add, I've heard people talking about for a while that Darkcoin was going to replace Bitcoin as the currency of the darknet. Do you hold that view as well? Do you think there's any legitimacy to that claim?
I really like Darkcoin. I have not been following it as closely as I used to lately. But the last time I really looked into it, and I have some Darkcoin around here somewhere. I've got it on a flash drive, I think, somewhere sitting. But I really like the idea behind it because I mean it's basically a mixer built into every transaction with DarkSend. Like, if you use DarkSend, then your coins are automatically mixed with other people's coins every time, and just shot off to a whole bunch of different addresses with no way to know if who got what or who received, like who sent it to who, because all those addresses are brand new. They're created right away.
Right.
And some of them are almost like even decoys. Like if you're sending 100 dart coins, or if you're sending, say, like 60 dart coins to somebody, you would actually put in 100 dart coins, and it would, mix your 100 with someone else's 100 with someone else's 100 with somebody else's 100 or whatever, mix them all together. Your 60 you're sending to that person would end up in the address you wanted to get to, and the other 40 would end up in another address that was created that you control.
Kind of like a change address.
Yeah, basically. So it's just a change address for you. But there's no way to tell if you sent 60 or 40, or if other people were sending other variables, if saying 50, or no one can ever tell how much or what amount you sent, or who received it, or even which addresses were the actual receivers, or if they were the ones that were going back to the person that sent it originally. It's a really good idea. I remember there were some flaws with it where technically, if with enough work you could track some of it somewhat, but last I saw they had fixed a lot of that and they were working on more of it. And it's just a really, really good idea in general. The developers behind it are really, really know what they're doing, basically. I mean, I remember when it first started and I saw it. I mean, the development team behind it is a very, very, very experienced development team.
Yeah, I honestly can't say if I think Darkcoin will take over the darknet or not, because Dark Wallet looks really promising, I think,
Yeah.
but it really improves the anonymity is the word I'm looking for, the anonymity of Bitcoin with all its bells and whistles that it has. And so it would allow people to use Bitcoin more anonymously, and you have the value of Bitcoin. Obviously, Bitcoin is worth a lot more than Darkcoin, and you can use it more places. So, but then at the same time, it seems like it would be a lot safer and a lot easier if you had the whole thing in one package, which is what Darkcoin offers, because Dark
Mhm.
Wallet is just a third party to Bitcoin, and it seems like the less moving parts, the better in
Right.
terms of discreetly exchanging money and getting illicit substances. So I really I honestly don't have any kind of prediction or any opinion on which one would take over the darknet in the future.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to make the same prediction I've been making, which is that all of the altcoins are the ones that want to survive at least. Once Blockstream gets sidechains working correctly, are going to become a sidechain of Bitcoin, and they will then be Bitcoin basically.
Yeah.
Like, there'll be Bitcoin running on their own chain, but be directly, transferable between blockchains. However, that's gonna work. I mean, I understand the basic idea behind it, but the technical details are above my head, and it seems above most people's heads.
Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely over my head.
but yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. As long as they can make that work, if they make sidechains work correctly, then every altcoin that has merit basically will become a sidechain. Either it will be, or somebody will copy that altcoin and make a sidechain like it, and that will be the thing to use. Because then it makes all the value of cryptocurrency all in one place, basically, while leaving it decentralized and insulated from each other. Um, you get the best of everything with removing all the negatives.
Yeah, I definitely 100% think that side chains are gonna completely change the altcoin game. Uh, I don't think there's really any arguing with that because, I think we talked about this last week. It removes a lot of the costs involved in developing an altcoin, which removes the likelihood of an altcoin being a scam, which is basically 100% at this point. Um,
Almost.
yeah, it's a great way to experiment. But so yeah, sidechains, it's gonna change the game.
Hmm.
But that's gonna wrap it up for our show. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Um,
Yeah.
make sure you subscribe to the channel. Uh, and read our articles on Coin Brief. We've been kind of quiet lately, but hopefully we're going to be picking up the content soon. Dustin has a big article coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, I might have another article or two coming in the next few days. So follow us on the website. Follow us on Twitter at CoinBrief. Follow me on Twitter at Evan Faggart, and subscribe. Again, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Um, and come back for next week's episode. And we'll see you then.
See everybody later.